Tēnā rā tātou katoa, and welcome along to ANZ Insights Future-Proof for Success. We're really keen to support food and beverage, and we've done this webinar along with our Insights paper, and we'll be hearing from some of our customers today for that paper. But before we go through that, just some important information and our disclaimer. Obviously, all of the purpose of this presentation is for information purposes only. If you would like personalized advice for you or your business, you can reach out to us and note in the feedback form at the end of today's session. In today's session, we will be using Zoom. You've all been disabled for your camera and auto muted for the purposes of the presentation, but we do love to interact with you. So if you could drop any questions that you do have in the chat box as we go through today's session, you will have an opportunity to ask any of our panel at the end of the session questions you have, but please feel free to drop it in the chat as we go, and we will ask them at the end in the Q&A section. At this moment, I'd love to introduce our panel of speakers to you. We have Brent Evans, our Regional Manager here at ANZ. Good morning, Brent.
Morning, Mel. Morning, everyone.
Welcome along. Mike Sutherland, co-owner at Sawmill Brewery. Good morning, Mike.
Morning, everyone.
Morning. William Beetham from Beetham Pastural. Morning, William.
Good morning, all.
Good morning. And Insa Errey from EECA. Good morning, Insa.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Morning. At this point, I'll hand over to Brent. Brent.
Thanks, Mel. And look, good morning again, everyone. Appreciate you all finding the time to join us. And it's my pleasure to host today's webinar, Future Proof for Success. Look, shortly you're going to hear from Mike and William on how they're creating successful, sustainable business models. And also Insa Errey, who's going to share some insights into how the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Authority can support business to reduce their energy-related emissions. Probably in terms of some of the main messages from me is that, look, sustainability and the need for environmental resilience is a growing part of conversations our frontline bankers are having every day with their customers. That's why at ANZ, we're committed to building awareness, connecting our customers with sector experts, and sharing insights that matter to support customers in their quest to grow strong, financially sustainable businesses. And look, when we turn our attention to food and beverage, look, this sector continues to experience strong growth, and it's a real success story for New Zealand and underpins the New Zealand economy. Last year alone, it accounted for just over 42 billion in export earnings. Obviously, with the growing demand for high quality food we produce, this is creating both opportunities and challenges in the sector. And at the same time, businesses are facing numerous challenges. And one thing I say about New Zealand businesses, particularly the F&B sector, they have huge resilience when they're sort of working through these challenges. But if you were to sort of summarize them at a high level, you know, climate change and which is impacting production and disrupting food supply chains. Now, look, we've seen that particularly apparent this year, obviously, with the weather events in Northland, Auckland, and the East Coast. Obviously, increasing input costs is another challenge. And again, coupled with that is the ability for businesses in this sector to attract and retain labour. The ongoing challenge of navigating regulations, both in the domestic scene and also in the export markets. And of course, the rise of the eco-conscious consumers who are driving a huge focus on what food we eat, where it comes from, and how it's produced, and its impact it's having on the environment. I suppose the one message I would share at the outset is we're all in this together. It's a journey, and I think it's important that we understand it's a journey. It's not a race. And all businesses and banks and the finance sector are no exception, are having to navigate new practices that we'll have to put into place in response to climate change. Therefore, it's important that we all work together. We share insights and we learn for each other. And that's a big part of what today is about in terms of Mike and William sharing their insights from a business perspective. So on that note, I'd now like to hand over to Mike, who's going to talk a little bit about the journey that both he and the team at Sawmill Brewery have been on in terms of it's sort of really running that sustainable focus within their own business. So welcome, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Brent. So my name's Mike. I own the Sawmill Brewery with my partner, Kirsty. We're based in the Matakana region, north of Auckland. Sawmill was one of the first contingent of independent breweries in New Zealand when we bought the assets of what was then known as the Lee Sawmill Brewery in 2010. Back then, there were about 30 breweries spread across the country. Now there's about 230 beer brands, more per capita here than anywhere else in the world. At the time, we were the only brewery north of Auckland, and most craft beer was sold in single 500ml bottles. Ours was in swing tops and filled one bottle at a time, which was fairly painful. This isn't always the case in our industry, where contract brewing is also really common, but we make all our own beer on our site in Matakana, have full manufacturing responsibility for it. We relocated from our original site in Lee to Matakana into a purpose-built brewery in 2016 with our own restaurant attached. I'd say that we probably started off 13 years ago with half an eye on our environmental impact. We utilised solar energy back then and encouraged people to refill their flagons. And we were naturally resourceful, as everyone is when they first start a business. But we didn't have a full picture of what our impact was. And if you speak with people in the beer industry about sustainable practices, one thing quickly becomes very clear: brewing in general is not an environmentally friendly business. It's very resource intensive. For example, it takes between 3 and 20 litres of water to make 1 litre of beer, a huge amount of processed heat, and generally speaking, a great deal of single-use packaging. The good news is, when something is resource intensive like brewing, it lends itself naturally to huge improvement. Where there is waste, there is opportunity. For us, this process started to gain real momentum in 2017 when we came across B Lab and B Corp certification. We had evolved our vision for the brewery from a goal of growth and a level of profitability to also wanting to be a great business. It became apparent this too must be measurable in the B Corp certification process, provided the framework we needed. We're a small business, and at the time, a lot of processes and practices were in our heads. So it took nearly 2 years to pull everything together, and we became New Zealand's first B Corp certified brewery in 2019. Earlier this year, we recertified, this time with a higher score, which, given the disruption of the last 2 years, including a major fire for us that closed our site for a year, was a real credit to our team. The interesting thing about aligning your business to success with your social and environmental impact is that community quickly emerges and opportunities present themselves. For us, one of the most helpful relationships has been with EECA, with whom we undertook a pilot study into decarbonisation in the brewing industry. This has given us a very clear picture of where we want the brewery to get to and how we will measure our success. Hopefully, it will be either interesting or helpful to talk briefly through some of the initiatives we've undertaken at Sawmill. I want to start with waste to landfill. The focus on reducing our waste had some unintended consequences for us. Unlike some of the larger, more technical investments, which might not ask much of your team, reducing waste requires everyone's buy-in. It was interesting to see how much people got in behind this very visible goal, and also how it created an opportunity to learn things to apply after work. A reminder that the workplace is also somewhere to pick up life skills. We did a couple of large source reduction exercises. For example, the installation of grain silos mean we have over 12,000 less grain to deal with annually. But for the most part, it came down to using less and sorting waste properly. We started weighing up waste to landfill and now have only 3 waste streams that collectively average between 9 and 10 kgs of waste to landfill per week, less than the average New Zealand household, all from a small industrial manufacturer producing over 1 million litres of beer a year. It's a huge source of pride for our team and is easily understood by our customers. Earlier this year, we installed one of the first carbon recapture systems for breweries in New Zealand. Fermentation produces CO2. Rather than losing it to the atmosphere, it's captured, condensed, and then reused in the brewery process. It's been a challenging system to scale down to our size, and it will take some work. But our goal is that it will mean we won't have to purchase 40 tonnes of CO2 every year from fossil fuel providers. As I mentioned earlier, we've been utilising solar energy in our brewery since 2006. Earlier this year, we installed a new system with 98 panels and infrastructure for another 170 to come in the year ahead. The panels are projected to supply 60% of our power needs over a year with a 7-year payback. Because we're rural, all of our water comes from our site and all our wastewater stays on it. With the help of the smart scientists at NIWA, this has presented us with a unique opportunity to install a wastewater treatment system with an anaerobic digester, which will be installed later this year. This is where we can capture the biogas emitted from the wastewater treatment and reuse this in the brewery to replace LPG in our boiler. Estimates range from 30 to 70% of our current use. It's a fairly wide band, but as we have to treat our wastewater, it stacks up either way. This project will also involve the restoration of a natural wetland for ultimate discharge of clean water. When resource allows, we can consider evolving the system to utilise reverse osmosis and bring the water back into the brewery for reuse. Probably the biggest ambition of ours not yet budgeted for is to convert our boiler to renewable energy, most likely electric. This would reduce our emissions by another 40%. I just want to go through some challenges and misconceptions about operating sustainably. It's challenging to get good data. We're always willing to share our data with others, other manufacturers, because real life is often more helpful than a retailer's best case scenario. It's sometimes challenging to do tech scans to see what's available, especially for smaller businesses. Again, you need to lean into a network of like-minded businesses. It's always difficult to find the time. Probably the biggest misconception we come across is that operating this way has a negative impact on the bottom line. A large part of running a sustainable business is running an efficient business. The more you use your own data to hone in on this, the better the outcome. Of course, there are personal reasons we run our business this way, but it's not necessary to hold these values if you want to make a footprint that's a positive one. We're a small manufacturer, but we aren't running a non-profit, and all these initiatives must work. I've started to think, when asked why we operate this way, that the more interesting question is, why doesn't everyone? If we can understand what holds people back, we will see the change we need. It isn't enough to have a handful of businesses stand up and talk about decarbonising. Manufacturing, as we know it, needs a radical overhaul. So we need to know what holds people back. Is it time? Do people not have enough information on increased efficiencies or payback on investments? Do they not know where to start? We believe it's important that we all share information that can improve businesses' environmental footprints and not keeping it to ourselves as a strategic marketing advantage that would make us all better off. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And William, if you'd like to pop on, William Beetham from Beetham of Pastural. We've got a few questions and I'll interview Mike to learn more about Mike's journey. Mike, you there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, sorry, Mike. Sorry, William. Do you want to pop back on? Sorry, that's my bad, William. Sorry, William, you there?
Yeah, good sculpt. Yep.
Yeah. Hi, William. Welcome along, and it's great to share with the audience your story. So I've got a few questions for you, but before we sort of get into them, do you want to just tell the audience a little bit more about Beetham Pastural, please?
Yeah, thanks, Mrs. So probably starting at the start, we're a business born out of a 168-year legacy of farming the Wainuiuri Valley and just east of Marston in the Wairarapa. Sheep and beef farmers. Back when I first left my professional career and came back to our farm, my wife and I decided to separate out from the family business and lease the farm and buy the stock and plant and establish Beetham Pastural. The reason why we created the name Beetham Pastural is it connected two fundamentals of our business to the name. One was obviously the family legacy and why we're there, which is sort of honouring those in the past and giving the same opportunities to those who come after us in the future. And pastoral is that we strongly believe in pastoral-based farming systems on marginal sheep and beef hill country or marginal hill country in New Zealand, and that was always going to be the foundation of our business. So we, as I said, leased the family property. We subsequently leased another property and then a third property after that. We're now only operating 2 properties. We've dropped one of our leases, so we cover 1,225 hectares of sheep and beef country, 5,000 breeding ewes, 1,100 hoggets sort of go to the ram, and we finish about 12,000 lambs a year. So we buy in some lambs and trade them on to silverfern farms, and we also finish about 500 cattle, which is a mix of steers and bulls on our farming operation.
Wow,
That's
big
about us.
business, William. Thank you for giving us a bit of background. So thinking about that, what role does sustainability play in your business and how important is it for you?
I think, and it's a good question, and I think it's really pivotal in my own personal journey over the last 12 to 15 years. Is that sustainability has been a big part of was part of my professional career, and certainly coming back to the family business, and we really respected the legacy and those before us, what they've achieved, and as I said, what is crucial for us is that we're just one small part of a long line, and we want to look after our land, our whenua, and pass it on to the next generation, and not only pass on the land, but ensure it's they have those opportunities that we have, and if not better and more opportunities. And so that became crucial, but I was quite a rush when I first started to get everything done and to move forward and grow the business. And what became really evident over the I suppose the medium term was that we're dealing with an annualized biological systems. To create transformation, it takes a long time. So we had to sort of pull myself back and look at a long-term view of everything that we do. And so if we're talking about every single decision we make, we're making it on horizons that are not just sitting on a 5-year horizon, but it's a 10, 50-year horizon. What do we want our business to look like in 50 years' time? And what does true sustainability mean to every decision we make? And looking out across those horizons and being more patient and being more long-term planning enables us to spread our vision of investment and our thought processes into anything from our stocking systems and what we focus on and how we do it, right through to our retirement areas and our planning around wetland establishment. What is the opportunity going to look like in the long-term future around sequestrations that are available, biodiversity opportunities that will be available in wetlands, right through to our woodlots. So the whole lens of what is a futuristic sheep and beef business going to look like, and how can we take our time to build towards that, because nothing happens quickly. But our focus is always coming back to what our future holders, our children, what would they want to see in our business, and that puts us very quickly into a lens of being carbon neutral, certainly being beyond that, and actually being a net carbon sequester, and also being an asset in terms of biodiversity and our long-term programs, so that in clean and fresh water, how can we take that long-term transition to achieve that? Because we also see that is going to create value in market. It's what our consumers want to see. It's what our future holder, our children want to see. So it's really symbiotic, and it's a nice way to operate a business.
Yeah, and I think that's really powerful about focusing, on long term and looking at that far now, looking after our children and future generations. So thinking about that, how do you find that good balance within the business between those short and long term goals?
I think that's probably a real challenge for myself being a sheep and beef farmer and talking to all my farmer colleagues. It's the constant changes and challenges that we're thrown at. No one day, no one year is the same in this business, and so we have the environmental challenges, we have the market challenges that we face that are always putting issues right up in front of us. And I think that one thing that's been really important in my transition has been, as I said before, not looking at that short term, but actually sitting down, and we've done this within our own business and forecasting out over 10 years, thinking about our farming policies. How can we invest over time, not trying to do it all at once? How can we make the best out of our farming policy so we're managing that climatic risk, we can manage our cost risk, and we know, because of the fluctuation in the value of our product in this business, how can we create value in that over a longer period of time? Because in this business, you can have severe drought or floods, as we've seen, and it can certainly impact you severely for 1 or 2 years. And if you get caught up in that, it can be quite emotionally challenging. But if you spread your horizon out further and begin to understand some truly, I suppose, what is your sustainable metrics in your business that you need to achieve over a 10-year horizon, that makes a longer term decisions in terms of investment in sustainability and delivering a sustainable product to our consumers, which they want, and we will be paid for it, a much easier decision and I suppose less stressful as an individual business owner.
Awesome, thank you. And from an industry perspective, how well do you think the case for more sustainable approaches is accepted?
Listen, from an industry perspective, we've all seen the challenges in the regulatory environment for farmers across New Zealand, and that's just a response to from I suppose a breakdown in trust between farmers and our wider New Zealand stakeholders. But the other dynamic in that, which is critical to New Zealand, because we're a 95% exporting country of all the product we produce, is it's our customers and consumer lens that is across sustainability. So the quicker we can really create sustainable businesses, and there's been a lot of effort already gone into our industry, but ground truth and transparency into the sustainable attributes of our product, and deliver that to our customers and consumers overseas, the better position that New Zealand will be going forward in the future. We have to, in my personal opinion, we have to understand that that because we export all of our products, we have to stay in front of the game compared to the rest of the world. And sustainability is our greatest net asset that we can implementing and will continue to implement on our farm. And it's the greatest opportunity to capture value in market and differentiate ourselves. So I suppose the quicker we can move towards that and continue to have that continual improvement journey is our greatest opportunity.
Awesome, thank you, William. And one last question. So you're a silver fern farmer. Why did you choose to go with silver fern farms?
So silver ferns, we chose silver ferns about 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. We looked at all the different opportunities we had once we really had reviewed our business operations, but and decided how we were going to run our business. We then thought what we need to do is quality, not quantity. How do we create value out of the product that we produce? And we looked at Silver Fern Farms as Silver Fern Farms plate to pasture strategy, which is continually involved, and that was about understanding the consumer, what the consumer wanted and what our customer wanted, and taking that right back to the farm gate. For us, we saw that we could build a business around better, having better in-depth through Sawmill Farms, having better in-depth understanding of our customer and consumer, and we could build our business and future-proof it by having that connection and driving to deliver the product that they want and the attributes in that product. And that certainly, by working with Sawmill Farms, we've clearly added significant value to our product, and it's a big opportunity for us. And I personally see with that market-driven strategy that's only going to continue to add value to our business as we work harder and harder to deliver it for our customers. So we consider Sawmill Farms our customer. We need to better understand them. We have to have a very close relationship with that business, and we need to deliver what they need to deliver to their customers.
Awesome. Thank you so much, William. You've got a wonderful business, and it's great to hear your story as well. We'll invite you back for questions and answers from the audience at the end. Thank you, William. So just remember, question and answers you can drop in the chat box if you want to ask at the end of all our speakers. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Insa from EECA. Insa.
Hi, thank you all so much for having me here today. What a great opportunity to talk to you all. And just to reiterate what Brent has said, we can't deny that the weather is changing. I'm sitting here in Auckland on a sunny, rainy day. And this year we've seen some tremendous rainstorms in Auckland. So let's focus on why are we here? Why are we all here today? So last year, New Zealand released its first emissions reduction plan. This contains strategy, policy, and actions in our effort to limit our temperature rise to 1.5 degrees and set a direction for the next 5 years. So you can read a lot more about that on the Ministry of the Environment website, deep dive into the emissions reduction plan. But who is EECA? EECA is the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Authority, and our role is really to mobilise New Zealanders to be world leaders in clean and clever energy. We're here to support and deliver the emissions reduction plan. We come in there are 5 strategic focus areas, and today I'll be really deep diving into the sector decarbonisation program, which fits under the productive and low emissions business. So what is the sector decarbonisation program? We're here to unlock non-financial barriers to support businesses to accelerate decarbonisation. We're working at a sector level by co-developing tailored tools and resources in collaboration with industry bodies. So here's just a small example of who we're working with on both the local and international level. And currently we've got 5 programs live. They consist of our pilot being the covered crop and greenhouse pathway, our brewing pathway, which Mike has helped co-develop and collaborate with. We've got a special coffee roasting pathway, and then focusing in the commercial space on commercial buildings, aged care. And then in the pipeline, we have wine, hotels, and our first of the plastics on expansion polystyrene to come in the next few months. And with many more in the pipeline. But we're not doing this alone. We're seeing a big global movement in decarbonisation. So we're really here to connect New Zealand businesses with world-class innovation and global leaders within their industry. So what is our approach? Our approach is to take a 5-step simplified pathway to guide businesses through reducing their individual emissions. We target the most prominent barriers that we've seen in our market research of how to start and where to start on your journey to decarbonise. We're enabling businesses to be ready to financially commit and handshake with other EECA funding programs. So let's take a deep dive into each one of these steps. Our first is engagement and awareness. We want to help businesses learn about the importance of decarbonisation and understand which processes in their business have the most impact on carbon emissions. We support peer-to-peer learning, and collaboration is key to acceleration. This stage also includes bringing your entire team on the journey. Staff behavioural change can see up to 20% savings in some cases. Stage 2 is measuring and targeting. Knowing what to measure and how to measure is an important step. Focusing on providing tools to measure and account for energy consumption. working with the industry on benchmarking, and importantly, not just focusing on footprint, but deep diving into monthly consumption on an intensity measure. So here's a great example of our brewing decarbonisation measurement tool. Here we've got an intensity measure of megajoules per hectolitre, and this not only supports financial management of forecasting energy consumption based on your productivity, it also enables apples per apples comparison across benchmarking within the industry. Once you've got a benchmark, we're able to set a target on energy efficiency. So, where to next? So stage 3 focuses on how to take action. Here we're really trying to share tangible and actionable resources. Our hero document has essentially been what we call a checklist, which is created bespoke to that sector and focuses on low cost, no cost process improvements. It's a bit of a stop and think approach to energy efficiency, and is what can be done really within the short term, within your circle of influence right now to see changes and step changes in your energy consumption. Here we're not continually encouraging businesses to measure and measure the small changes and impacts, and then of course at least celebrate those successes. Step 4 is reducing energy demand reduction. This is really the first step in where we start talking about significant asset changes. New technology to existing processes can really reduce the amount of energy required to do the same job. Here we really focus on global innovations and equipping businesses with the latest innovation, both on a local, both international and local perspective. What we've seen really in the food and beverage industry is that waste heat recovery is a great opportunity to reduce your demand. And this is seen quite heavily within the brewing industry, and we've got some great examples with that seen in some of our in-depth deep dives within the sector. Last of all, our final stage is fuel switching. Here we want to set up businesses to support them for successful decision making and also applications into our funding programs. We do this last because we want to focus on energy efficiency first approach and then upstream technical changes to reduce the consumption. And here we've sometimes seen that the final capital investment required to reduce the fuel can be reduced because the boiler size might be able to be reduced. And here we really want to build an awareness to take a holistic approach in your asset management strategy in fuel switching, and to really take on an asset management strategy into fuel switching opportunities. So that's really it in a quick nutshell, but where to next? So really encouraging you to get involved and to sign up. There are so many co-benefits associated with energy efficiency and fuel switching. Obviously, cost reduction with energy efficiency, productivity improvements. Consumers are always looking for more sustainable and low cost, low carbon products, and obviously future-proofing your business within this changing landscape of energy consumption. So there are some exciting new giddy funding opportunities that are coming up. So stay up to date by signing up to our program. And if your sector isn't live yet, contact us, or if you didn't see your industry body in the list, I encourage them to engage with us. So we're here to help you on your journey. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Insa. That's fantastic. Thank you for that. So we'll just get everyone for the speakers to come on for questions, but just while I wait for them to pop back on to get some questions through, just to let you know, there are a range of sources of information to support you and your business. So there's obviously the insights paper that goes along with that, what you can hear from all of our speakers in there. You can find that on our website, on our insights page, EECA's page that's been shared in the chat, New Zealand Food and Council, NZTE and Toitu. So they're all there and available for you as other sources and pieces to help you in your sustainability journey. So if we just pop all on screen, all my speakers pop back up, we will just go through if we've got questions for our speakers in there. Please drop them in the chat box. This is your opportunity to ask them whether you want to know further about their journey or know more about the sustainability piece. So if we get everyone up, we'll just ask those questions. So I'll sort of make a start. And so thinking about that, there's lots of resources that you do have for businesses, but sometimes I guess it's a bit like the last slide. There's so much stuff out there. Where's a sort of good place for any business to sort of make a start?
Yeah, great question. I think one of the key challenges really for businesses is having an overwhelming amount of information that all is there to do the right thing to try and support and unlock barriers. But the key component with Sector Program is that we've tried to consolidate all of that information in the 5-step order so businesses know where to start and how to start. Understandably, everybody is at a different stage of their journey, so it is a little bit of a choose your own adventure style, and you can jump into wherever you think you're fit. But we really want to service an equitable transition for all, hence why we're bringing that all the way back to right to the start of our journey. Yeah, so that's where I'd say start there, have a look, and if your sector isn't there, get in contact, and we're happy to start.
Yeah. Great, thank you. And Mike, where do you think for someone in business is a good place to start from your point of view?
In terms of decarbonisation?
Just in this, yeah, decarbonisation or any of sort of your journey along the way in this, if you want to use that.
You know, right at the start, you've just got to become engaged and interested in the opportunities to run your business more efficiently. You know, there's some really you know, we had really awesome engagement with EECA in our experience, and we developed a whole pathway to, you know, our big hairy goal is to be carbon neutral. And I guess that's going to take some time because it's, you know, requires a lot of capital investment, but there's a lot of things you can do just to get started, you know, just make sure you're not wasting any heat, and you know, make sure, you know, the people on the ground are being really efficient with how they're using hot water, for example. And then there's just small technology, you know, amounts of technology you can introduce. Measuring's a massive part of it, because if you don't measure your output or input, then you don't really know if you're making improvements anyway. So although it can seem overwhelming of, you know, the whole process, this, you know, it's just a step by step, like Insa pointed out, and it's really bloody fascinating, and it just adds so much more to your business than just, you know, going through the sort of you know, making more widgets to serve your purpose.
Great, thank you. And that whole philosophy, what gets measured gets done, I think falls in here. So we've got a question for you, Insa. Do you work with NZ Taxi Federation or SPSA, Small Passenger Service Association?
No, not yet. So if you're a member, encourage them to reach out to us, and we'd love to start a conversation.
Awesome, thank you. Let's have a look. We've got a next question. For food and fibre producers, how influential or important are processes in influencing on farm awareness decisions and transitions? Could they, should they be exerting more influence? William, do you want to have a go at that one?
Yeah, certainly. I think it's a really good point. So we producers obviously spend a lot of time figuring out how they can create more value out of their product. So if those processors who are purchasing their product are looking to create more value, effectively, you know, pay more, then the producers will adjust the way they operate their businesses, and that goes right through to the market. So as I said before, we can either continue to do the same thing as an exporting country of all of our food and just push our product out into market and hope we get value for it, or we can take what has to be the best opportunity and the proactive approach to say, actually better understand our customers and consumers, and the processors and the industry bodies, but certainly the processors or those who purchase the product off the farmers have an opportunity to understand the consumers, what attributes they want in their products, and then directly pay those farmers who want to create those attributes, and that will significantly help farmers adjust the way they operate their businesses. So yeah, I certainly think the processing sector and the marketing sector has a huge role to play in driving sustainability in New Zealand's agricultural businesses.
Awesome. Thank you, William. And keep all the questions coming. There's lots of great questions. So I'll ask this of you, Mike, and then William, if you want to add to it. So what are the major barriers and risks to your continued success? So what are some of the untapped opportunities that you see?
I guess for us, it's moving away altogether from using any fossil fuel. That's something we want to get to. That'll take a little bit more growth to be able to make that work. But every little project we pick up, we run the numbers on it, and we get the measurements right. And by the time we get through, the planning side of things and going, righto, let's do it, it just makes perfect sense. The dollars and cents stacks up and it pays for itself, in the short to medium term. So the long-term outlook is really beneficial to your business, because, to get rid of any, whether it's landfill or wastewater or anything, there's a cost to all of that. So you've got to factor that in when you're looking to employ and bring in new technology. So, the numbers always have to stack up.
Great. Yeah. William?
Yeah, I think if I look at the farming sector and the food and fibre sector in New Zealand, some of the greatest barriers are the emotional barriers. And what I mean by that is that, farmers are good business people, and they spend a lot of time trying to ensure that they get the businesses operating and running day to day. And there's been probably, as we know, there's been a lot of bad press around sustainability, around farming and those other issues. And then they see probably other regulatory issues that are clouding their judgment. And that becomes quite a big barrier, rather than actually just stripping back to the basics of what their businesses are. And the basics of food production is the great, it's the most purposeful work in the world. We're putting food on the table. And then if you add the attribute of sustainability into that, into putting sustainable food on the table for the world's population and being a leader in that removes a lot of those barriers, and you start to think outside your business as opposed to the challenges you face in it. And then you can break down those challenges, or how you're going to address, or what does that actually look like in your business. So I think, number one has to be break down those emotional barriers and actually understand what you do is incredibly purposeful and the difference that you can make in your business, and then start to break down where the opportunities are for you, and look to create value in your business through doing that process, rather than being caught in the day-to-day running of the business and perhaps what the media says.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you for that, William. Inka, what's the best way for people to deal with you and sort of start that education or that learning with you?
Yeah, great question. So I really encourage you to sign up. In the sign up, you can choose either one of the 5 live pathways or some of the upcoming pathways, or even just choose a general business. And that way you can stay in touch and in contact with all of the new things that EECA is doing.
So what's the pathway? Sorry. So what's a pathway for those that don't know? So
we have that 5-step framework and decarbonisation pathway. We have the 5 that are live at the moment, and I encourage you to sign up to those. Reach out to us. We've got some business inboxes there available. I think one of those links is through to our one of the inboxes. I just encourage you to get in touch.
Cool. Great. And there's like newsletters and things like that people can sign up through that as well.
Absolutely.
Great. And they can learn through that. And following on from the learning question, I guess, William, where have you sort of got your learnings from? Like, where would you go? Is it from mentors, obviously, EECA, or where's sort of your sort of go-to to learn from?
Yeah, I think all through my, I suppose, business journey, I've had mentors, whether farming mentors or I suppose governance and business mentors, and that they have been really, really useful. And I think there's a lot of people out there who want to help. In the rural sector, we have a significant amount of resources to be able to access. So whether if it's organisations like Beef and Lamb, Dairy NZ, the local regional councils, there are people there who want to support businesses to do better and be better, and what is effectively New Zealand's biggest industry. So I think the key thing is to not get caught up in wondering where you're going to go, is actually just to make those moves and connect with one particular organisation or a discussion group or a local consultancy to start a journey. And once you're on that journey, I think what I've found, it's been amazing how many people want to come in and help move your business forward and support you in your business journey.
Awesome, thank you. So keep the questions coming. Probably got a chance for a couple more. Mike, how about you? Did you have mentor or sort of answer around that?
Yeah, I guess what we in our industry, we're probably the leading, sustainable business. So I guess we've kind of been down lots of rabbit holes early on with where to go and what to do. But we've figured plenty of stuff out. And so I would just say to anyone else, our door's always open, and we're a pretty good resource for anyone to come to whenever they want to have a chat about what we've done, whether it's, becoming B Corp certified or, our decarbonisation pathways or anything else. I think outside of that, our industries, I think every industry body is probably taking more notice and realizing that it's a really important part of their existence is pushing the businesses within it into becoming more sustainable manufacturers or producers. And I guess it's just been research, looking offshore, the Google, the World Wide Web is a wonderful asset, isn't it?
It sure is. Yeah.
Anything you want.
Thank you so much. So that's the end of our questions. Thank you everyone for the questions. Thank you to the wonderful speakers, Mike, William and Insa. It's great to hear from you. I'm just going to hand over to Brent now just to do some final words and help wrap up the session. Brent.
Thanks, Mel. And look, yeah, I also just want to thank all our speakers for those insights. Look, a couple of observations from me and Mike, something that resonated, or a couple of things that resonated with me is, where there is waste, there is opportunity, and not only in the food and beverage sector, but all businesses generate waste, and that's always probably a good place to start. You also emphasise the importance of partnering, and obviously with EECA and NIWA, and again, it's just been mentioned in the question or the Q&A is around there's a lot of resources out there to support businesses on the sustainability journey. The willingness to share, that was also a strong theme that resonated with me. And as I've been in banking a wee while, and one thing that really surprises me about New Zealand businesses is their willingness to share. And I think, as I said, we're all on this journey together, and it's important that we learn from those that have gone before us. And that's the beauty of having such as Mike and William sharing their story. And, I think you also touch on this in the insights paper, Mike, where you sort of say that, I think you capture it quite well. You say you just don't want a few people doing sustainability well. You want 1 million, or perfectly, you want 1 million people doing it imperfectly. So we shouldn't get too hung up on, are we always 100% correct? And I think finally, when I look at the insights you've shared, is dispelling that myth around time poor and cost. Yeah, look, we get it as bankers that business owners are extremely time poor. They have to wear multiple hats, and it shouldn't be viewed that sustainability is a cost to your business. And as you've rightly pointed out, it creates efficiencies, and it can have the opposite impact on the bottom line. And more, it can rather be a cost, it can be a benefit. William, legacy, boy, that came through loud and clear. And, New Zealand's still a relatively young country, and this intergenerational change or transitioning of businesses through the generations is becoming more and more apparent. And it's important that legacy that New Zealand business owners are setting up, that sustainability plays a key part in that story. You certainly reinforced that journey message. I just quote you here, invest over time, don't do it all at once to create value. And I think that is a critical element to this whole climate change, sustainability message. The paper sort of touches on this a little bit about the importance of F&B exporters and how sustainability needs to be a part of their story. And, you know, you referenced it as it's your greatest asset. As an exporter, sustainability is our greatest asset. And I think that is key to any exporter, but particularly in the food and beverage space. And so just in closing, staff mindset change. You mentioned that, and that is critical, because everyone is going to have a view, they're going to have opinions, and it's how we can sort of obviously respect that and take everyone on the journey. But we got to start. So I thank you. I thank you for those insights. So just a couple of closing comments. It's important. Well, it's important that we really understand our customers, and that's particularly so for the food and beverage sector. You know, there's an increasing information out there from around the globe showing that consumers are really demanding more and more in terms of that sustainability message. And no one consumer, you know, everyone is different. So what could be a driver in one particular geography may be different in others. So it's very important for businesses to really understand the end consumer and forge those strong connections to understand what is important to them from a sustainability perspective. Also, I encourage you to be clear about your long-term priorities and where sustainability sits within your strategic agenda. And we've already touched on, or Mel's shared with you, some of the resources that are available to support you on that journey. But I suppose don't forget the bank. We play a critical role in supporting you on the sustainability journey. You know, and our assistance can take many forms. It can be anything from sharing insights, such as we have with this paper, connecting customers. We have, you know, being New Zealand's largest bank in terms of the number of business customers we actually bank, we have an innate ability to be able to connect. And that is really powerful to sort of support those businesses who are starting out, how we can sort of, you know, introduce them to other businesses that have started, you know, are well entrenched on the journey, and how they can share their insights. And it's really powerful to hear from the likes of Mike and William, how willing they are to share their insights. And of course, we have a number of financing options available to support sustainability initiatives, including ANZ Business Green Loan. And, you know, we can offer those at discounted interest rates to really support you on that pathway. So look, on that note, I thank all our speakers once again. I thank the questions, and I'll hand back to you, Mel.
Thank you so much, Brent, and thank you for summarising that. It's been a pleasure to hear from Mike, William and Insa today. We really hope that you've enjoyed your time with us today.